one thing I want to highlight is that it's important to stand out in the room and network your way, and you can network your way to the top. And I love people that come and interact with me, and even if I look busy, come and say hello. Brad's one of those guys who's up next, and he literally has been on my radar since he arrived in London. He's a bit of a cheeky chappy. How old are you, Brad, just as a heads up? 42. You look it. How old are you really? He's 19, right? On his intro, he says, with almost 5 years experience. I think I wrote it. But he's 19, right? And literally, once you connect with him and you hear him speak, you'll realize why he's got that zest for a sales career. He's done a fantastic job becoming an SDR and now an Enterprise SDR at Cognizant. And among his achievements, he's exceeded targets and pipeline since April this year. Can we have a big round of applause for Brad Norgate, please?
Thank you very much. I've gone a bit numb. I've just sat down there. It's nice to. Everyone else has done something interactive. So, good. Everyone, just put your hands up. Everyone in the room. Okay, put your hands down. So that's that out of the way. Number. When I was thinking about what to talk about, I was like, I don't really know how I'm going to fill 7 minutes. But now I've had a few drinks, I'm worried about speaking for 17. So James, just tell me if I go too much. Basically, what I want to speak about is how to book as many meetings as you possibly can and then get promoted quickly and just be a sales legend, basically. Not that I have any experience in that, just how to do it. And that there's one way that I think is most crucial to doing that, and that is having a prospect-centric approach to all of your outbound versus a product-centric approach. So I'll speak a little bit about what I mean with that. Just to kick off, in fact, I'll do a little bit of a structure, mainly for me more than you guys, so that I don't forget what I'm speaking about. But obviously, I'll talk about the pros and cons of each, so a product-centric approach versus a prospect-centric approach, how to do both if you decide, and then how to leverage that to book the most meetings possible. So to kick off, I think, just talking about selling instinctively, I think we all... And there's a scene I'm going to mention from The Wolf of Wall Street, which is really, really cliche because we're a room full of salespeople. Actually, this is where we can get the interactivity in. So if you've seen The Wolf of Wall Street, put your hands up. Yes, okay, good. So the scene from that is the sell me this pen scene. I'm sure you've all seen that. So they all go along, and one person says, "Oh, it's a great pen. It's lovely ink. Your signature will look great." And he takes the pen back, and they go along the line, and it's the last person then that says, "Write your name down on this piece of paper." And of course, he can't write his name down because he doesn't have a pen. And that is, ultimately the person who did the best job. And the reason he did that, this is a bit of a trivial, a bit of a oversimplified example, but the reason that works is because he's created or found a problem, and he's used the pen as the bridge to solve that problem. So that's what you guys can all do on your cold calls and your cold emails. So just a bit of background on me, first of all, and how I started out. So I'm 19 now, as James said, or 42, which is how I look, how I feel when I get out of bed in the morning. And when I started off in sales, I was 18 in 2 months, and I was in a call center in Portsmouth, which is, I would say, probably heaven on earth for anyone. If you can go to Portsmouth, it's a beautiful town. I'm lying, obviously, if any of you have been to Portsmouth. And so that's what I was doing. I was making 100 dials a day, 150 dials a day, just speaking to people. We had no management, no training, nothing like that. So I was just learning on the job. And I was using that instinctive selling of, okay, what's the product I'm selling? What are the features? What are the bells and whistles? And I was just blurting that out in my pitch and hoping that something would stick. And what I was coming across, and I don't know if this is something any of you guys have experienced, is that straight out of the gate, I was getting the objections. I'm not interested. It doesn't sound like something we need. We've got that covered. We've got something similar. So I was getting that all the time. And I just couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I was making the calls. I was pitching. I thought I sounded great on the phone. I was cocky. So, I thought I was doing a great job, everything I needed to. But it wasn't working. So I thought, okay, back to the drawing board. And then Liv from Venetrix messaged me. Round of applause for Venetrix, guys. Great. Just shout out. She messaged me, and there was an opportunity at Cognism going. So I handed my notice in. I didn't actually work my notice, which was a bit bad. And then I didn't have money to pay for trains for the first month, so that was great. But moving on, before I start crying, that was a really dark time in my life. But I better look back down on my paper. The white wine, guys, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, so in the 2 weeks that I had in between finishing my last job and starting at Cognism, I came across this guy, Benjamin Dennehy. So round of applause if you've ever heard of the UK's most hated sales trainer. He's great. And I thought, okay, I'm going to steal everything from this bloke. I'm not going to pay for any of his courses. I'm glad he's not here tonight because I didn't do that. I'm just going to listen to his YouTube videos, watch, stalk his LinkedIn, see what I can learn. And he taught me again, it's about being prospect-centric, being problem-centric. So I had 2 weeks to listen up and train up. And when I got to Cognism, I promised myself I was just going to try that and see how it worked. And if it worked, I'd stick with it. If it didn't, I'd go back to the old ways. And thank God it worked when I started, because I really don't know what I would have done. And what I found immediately when I made that switch, so let me just give you a bit of insight into how I do it at Cognism. I'll give 2 problems that we solve, and then I'll ask them in one way or another if that resonates with them in any way. So the problems we solve are knowing who to speak to, who's the best person to speak to in the company you're reaching out to. We can answer that question, then we provide you obviously the contact data to get in touch. If I was doing a more like a product-centric pitch, I might say we've got 4 times more mobiles and Zoom info than EMEA. No offense, guys, but speak to our guys after is all I'm saying. But no, you're great. So I moved away from that and went more towards, someone's laughing at the front, it's putting me off. I moved more towards a prospect-centric approach. So these are the 2 problems we solve. Does any of that apply? And then you've got a conversation, because they're either going to say yes or no. So it eliminates those immediate objections. And if they say no, that's not the end of it, because you need to find out why. You've got another conversation there. So I was finding immediately a lot less upfront objections and a lot more conversations I was having. So immediately that was the result there. And then obviously off the back of that, a lot more meetings. And there are a few other benefits to using this approach versus a product-led, pitch slap, feature-led approach. And that is, number one is rapport, right? So if you call someone, and I keep talking about calling because that's where I book pretty much all of my meetings. Some guy, Scarlett, who's here tonight, she's very, very good at LinkedIn. I don't know if it's the face. If I got a message from that, I don't know if I wouldn't go too well. So yeah, they can't see me on the phone, which I think is why I do so well. Again, lost my train of thought. It's going great. Yeah, so rapport when you're on the phone. If you call someone and in your pitch immediately, instead of talking about product, you're speaking about problems, they think, okay, this guy actually, he's in my world, he knows what he's talking about, let me let my barriers down a little bit and have a bit of a conversation here. So that's number one, and what you find is the conversation flows a lot easier, there's a lot less friction there. And then number 2 is, we've spoken tonight about alternative pathways. It was Brian talking about account manager. But when you put your hands up in the room for what you guys wanted to be, I think most of it was account executive. So while these skills also apply for an account manager as well, it's really, really great to... I'm training at the minute to be account executive. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that they spend the majority of their time talking about their prospects' problems, their pains, their issues, their challenges, and very, very little time about how the product can actually solve it. They're not pitching or anything like that. So if you're building these habits early, from the minute you get in the door as an SDR, by the time it comes around to AE interviews or however you get progressed, stepping into the role of AE, I'm not saying it'll be easy, but it should hopefully be easier to make that jump. How am I doing for time, James? Because... Whoa, okay, right. So we've got this is how to, I'm going to speed up really quickly now. This is how to actually apply that, because I've told you why you should do it, I'll tell you how to do it. The number one most effective way for me is we sell to a lot of different personas, so it could be HR, finance, sales and marketing like we do at Cognism, Zoom Info as well. I do love you guys really, and I feel bad now. But yeah, so speak to those personas within your company. Speak to the finance, speak to the sales team. How do they use your product? What are the pains that they're experiencing? And then use that in the pitch that I mentioned to you when you're speaking to your prospects. Lastly, you can use things like, if you really want to get specific and really want to get tailored, you can read company reports. You can do all that sort of personalization to figure out the specific business challenges, pains and goals, and use that in your opener, as opposed to oh my God, excuse me, it was a white wine burp. I'm very sorry. And use that and use that instead of feature slapping, pitch slapping. So that's my speech. And hopefully you've taken away how to book more meetings today. So thanks a lot, guys.